Somebody just asked the other day in a group I'm in, is it actually possible to make it? And I'm like, well, what do you mean by making it? And he said, well, actually being able to pay for my bills and having some money at the end of the month and not feel like I'm a slave to my business and I have to work 60-hour weeks. And it was like sad to me. He was asking a dead serious question. He genuinely thought that it was not possible to have a better life.
Hey, fitness fans, welcome back to the Future of Fitness podcast and interview series. This is your host, Eric Malzone, and this is episode number 105. I get to talk to Billy Hofacker. So what a great story. What a great service that he is launching. So let's get real for a second, okay? I talk to a lot of fitness professionals, a lot. I am one of you. I am a fitness professional. I've been doing it for a long time. And I can tell you this, as much as we truly care for people, we want to change lives, we want to make an impact, we haven't really figured out how to fill our bank accounts, have we? Right? And if you haven't been instilled with great financial habits over your lifetime, there's a good chance you can get into trouble. And Billy tells his story, the trouble he was in, the debt he was in, and how he got himself out of it. And now he's devoted himself to helping people within the fitness and health industry get out of debt and get into the black and start living the lives that they want and deserve. So really good insights. You know, it's so interesting, the mindset around money that we have, how we deal with it. And it's a topic that frankly is just not talked about enough within our profession. And it's one of the ways we could elevate it is by talking about money. Money is, you know, for some reason we always want to sacrifice ourselves for the greater good. Well, you don't have to. We shouldn't, right? We offer a ton of value, and money is just an easy way of establishing value. It's the most communicated way of establishing value. That's it. That's all the mindset you need to know about money. So are you worth it? Then establish the value with money and go from there. So I'm asking you for a favor today. Call to action would be, if you can, please go to iTunes or wherever you're listening to this and subscribe. That helps us a ton. We have a ton of great interviews coming out, like amazing ones. Dean Somerset is after this, a bunch of other ones that I've lined up for Q1 and beyond. It'll blow your mind. You're not going to want to miss them. And then write us a review. So I'm going to read reviews out for every single one that I do. And Scott Michelle from Orange Shoe Personal Fitness, he wrote this. Hands down, the most consistent high-value content you will find on a podcast. Eric ensures the episodes give the listener the most return on their time investment. I own 11 studios, and I'm still learning how to improve my business from this podcast. Thank you, Scott. That was awesome. And yeah, so you guys, it takes you 2 minutes. And it's so helpful to me. It's so helpful to the cause of what we're trying to do here. We are trying to elevate the industry. We're trying to modernize the industry, right? I'm interviewing business leaders, thought leaders, technology leaders, all the stuff we need to have in our hands in order to elevate the industry to a higher level. And that's what it's about. So please go to iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you're listening to this, subscribe and review. That would be amazing. Without further ado, number 105, Billy Hofacker. Enjoy the show. All right, Billy, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you, brother. I am super, super duper excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. You're doing some really, really good stuff for the fitness industry. I mean, something that is truly a great service to fitness professionals. So it's an honor to highlight you on the show. And there's going to be a lot of value, listeners, for stuff that maybe you don't necessarily like to deal with, which is your finances and how to manage your money. But we all need it. And it's like doing the fundamentals of fitness, right? It's the planks and the squats that get you to where you want to go. So Billy, let's do this, man. Give us a bio, give us your background, and then we'll get into what you're up to now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been in the fitness industry a long time. I've done everything that most of the fitness entrepreneurs do as they come up. I started off working in a commercial club as an independent contractor, and then I went on to everything from working in private studios to a gym on wheels at one point, which was very interesting. I ended up having a studio in my home. So I bought a home, and it has two family house. I converted part of it into a little studio. I did that for a while. And then I actually kind of went part-time with personal training, and I went on to be a full-time professional martial artist for a few years. I believe it was 3.5 years. I worked for a very well-known martial artist and managed facilities for him, and it was a great experience. And there were definitely some similarities with the personal training business, and kind of took what I learned there. And ultimately, going back now close to 8 years, I took the leap of faith and I started my own facility. And since then, I haven't looked back. Now I own 2 successful facilities on Long Island. I have a corporate, we do corporate wellness as well. And I've also delved into the whole fitness business side. And last year I released a course called Small Facility System, where it was kind of showing our systems, how to be really profitable with a small facility. So that was really fun. And as I know we're going to discuss, now I am more excited than ever to really help fitness professionals win with their personal finances. It started on the personal side. So a lot of what I learned was on the personal side. So I was probably like a lot of people, I was doing what I loved, and I kind of felt that, hey, I could either do what I really love doing, or I could maybe try to make a lot of money. I didn't really think I could do both. And that's sort of what happened. I was kind of, coasting along, I guess you would say. And I got a knock on the door, and it was early in the morning, and I'm kind of shocked. I opened the door. It's this big dude with a shaved head and goatee and tatted up. And look into the street, and I see my car is hooked up to his tow truck. He was repossessing my car, and it was like a slap in the face. I didn't even realize that things were that bad. That was the real wake up call, because it's one thing to kind of know it's coming, but it was like, wow, things are really that bad. I didn't even realize that I was going to be losing my car. That led to me finding out a lot more how bad things really were. I am and was married at the time, and my wife and I looked into things and realized that we were in a bad way. Not only was the car repossessed, but we were several months behind on our mortgage. We were at risk of being foreclosed. We had north of 6 figures in non-mortgage debt. And that ranged at everything from credit cards to student loans to loans with friends and family members, medical bills. I mean, you name it, we had it in terms of debt, and we were being suffocated, and we were teetering on being hopeless. And what I mean by hopeless is that we weren't sure how things were going to turn out. We didn't know if things were going to just keep getting worse. It was scary. It was hard on our marriage. We couldn't really talk about money without arguing, and that's sort of my life story, a big part of my life story, which has led to where I am now. I don't know if you want me to kind of share that, or you want to kind of move on here.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like, how, was it the gym? Was it lifestyle choices? Was it like what, or was it a collection of all of it? Like how, because I know a lot of people who don't talk about it, especially on podcasts, have dealt with,
Yeah, it's not something most people are highlighting on Instagram.
No, it's not. But it's real.
It's real. Yeah, I guess insidious, is that the right word? Where it was just like if I do this, 100 times, it won't matter. But if I do it like 1,000,000 times, like my hand's probably gonna start bleeding. That's kind of how it was, with death by 1,000 cuts. And that's when we woke up at that point. We honestly, it's crazy because I feel really stupid, or I felt really stupid, and we honestly didn't realize how bad things were. And it's like, how, like even now, I feel like I'm a different person. It's like, how could I not have realized that I needed to make a change? And I guess like a lot of people, we swept stuff under the carpet, we ignored it, and when you ignore things, they don't get better. And that's true with everything. We know that. We know it's true with our clients and their physiques. We know it's true with our finances. It's true with our marriages and our relationships. those are we know those are the traits of people that have characters, that they deal with those things as hard as they are. And that's kind of what it took for us. For a while, I was beating myself up. But at the end of the day, it made me who I am. And it's kind of like that cliche, but it's true. Like, I don't think I would have made the changes necessary had it not gotten that bad. And now I've been coaching a lot of people who are, struggling financially, fitness professionals. And sometimes it's like our clients, it's the ones that they go into the doctor and the doctor told them, listen, you're going to die if you don't make a change. Those are the people that oftentimes make those changes, and they put in the hard work. But it's the ones that are like, hey, you're just 15, 20 pounds overweight, and you're probably somewhat okay. Like, they're not as motivated. I had like no choice. Like, I want to just make sure I have the time frame correct. I have a daughter that is 7.5. So this was like right around the time when we were starting our family. We now have 3 little girls. And it was like, I have a wife and a daughter, and I have no freaking choice. I have to make a change. And this is not the life that I want. I will not tolerate just being suffocated by this debt. I got very angry at it. And ultimately, it led to the fuel that I needed to make some of the changes that I made.
Wow. So how did you get out of it? Walk through that process. I mean, it's, I was thinking about like, oh, wait, what a great, way to get into consulting. I'm like, well, the people you're working with, they don't have money to pay for consulting. Right? Everyone wants to consult for the people who are like killing it, right?
I know.
They can afford, $5-10 grand a month in consulting fees, but this isn't the market you're going to. So I guess, that's just a side thought, but
no, it's good.
How did you get out of this?
I have some thoughts on that. As far as how I got out, in hindsight, it was a step-by-step process. I did some things that just really led to the great success that I've had. And it started with, I think, like with any change, it started, I know this is not necessarily what you're looking for, but I feel like it has to be said. It started with that decision. That's the key. It started with that decision that was right here. It started with my wife and I getting to that point where we said, we are going to change. We don't want to raise our kids in the same way that we were, which was very much false, negative views towards money and just all these twisted mindsets. We want something different. And that's where it started. And once you do that, what is it? It's like the Viktor Frankl quote, once your why is strong enough, you'll endure anyhow.
Yeah.
And that's what it was for us. But then there were practical steps. I mean, that started with the vision, like what were we trying to do? What were our goals, both short-term and long-term? I know we had I still have it. We have a notebook journal where we started scribbling out, everything from our feelings about money to our goals and attitudes and the steps we needed to take. We put motivational quotes and scriptures, and we made our vision very real over time, and we still have it. We have, it's not the sexiest thing probably for most wives, but we have like poster boards in our closet door with our goals and charts and all this stuff of where we're at, and it kept us motivated over time. There was a lot of communication between us. We still do a monthly meeting. We call it a family meeting, and we talk about, now we've added several topics to it, but the finances is a big part of it. I think not being on the same page as if you're married as your spouse is very problematic. So that was one of the keys, was getting on the same page. It's hard enough when you're on the same page, and when you're not, it's just it's very difficult. So there's more to that and how we did that, but that was part of it. And then it was just, hey, let's make a plan. And I think one of the issues is kind of like fitness, and the similarities with our training clients are uncanny, because I believe with fitness, a lot of the issue is that it gets overcomplicated. Everybody's trying to figure out the perfect program.
Right.
Well, what is the perfect program? The perfect program is the one that you do and the one that makes sense and that you can actually follow. I don't care how great the program is and how much science is behind it, but if the person doesn't do it, it doesn't do any bit of good. So same thing here. We needed a simple plan, and that's what we followed. It was a simple plan. We used what I now call a spending plan. The spending plan is just really, it's just telling your money where to go. On paper or on a spreadsheet or however you want to do it. It's just being planned. And it's this a lot of people think that it's something that's going to be very limiting. It's going to be, I compare it to kind of like a system in a business. People think that, when the trainer has a system they have to follow, like, greet the client this way, do the program this way, customer service, people falsely believe that that's going to create a lack of freedom. But we all know that what that does is actually it creates more freedom within that context of what you're trying to do. And it's the same thing there. When you plan out your spending, you actually have more freedom because you realize how much money was going to things that you really didn't need or possibly even want. And you start cleaning that up. You start getting organized with your finances and you feel like you got a raise because there's all that extra money that, wow, now I can actually put this to where I want it to go. And we had to make a plan to get out of our debt. We had so much debt, and we used what's called the debt snowball. If anybody's familiar, I know we learned it from Dave Ramsey, who's it's somewhat counterintuitive. The debt snowball is where you list out all of your debts from lowest to highest. So you have your whatever, student loan, we had like a long list of things, credit cards. And rather than paying off the high interest rate first, which is how many people approach it, and it makes sense on paper, like why not pay off the things where you're paying the highest interest because you're losing the most money? Sure. This is more from a psychological, emotional standpoint where you're kind of at that point where you're borderline discouragement, you're kind of in a desperate state. So you need to start racking up those wins. You need to start feeling like, wow, there's light at the end of this tunnel. And I'm telling you that this system works because right now I'm coaching people through it, and people that were hopeless are now feeling like I don't have to be suffocated by my debt. I don't have to live this life where somebody just asked the other day in a group I'm in, is it actually possible to make it? And I'm like, well, what do you mean by making it? And he said, well, actually being able to pay for my bills and having some money at the end of the month and not feel like I'm a slave to my business and I have to work 60-hour weeks. And it was like sad to me. He was asking a dead serious question. He genuinely thought that it was not possible to have a better life, a life where you can do some of the things you actually want to do, where you could have a great and growing business. You can have the facility of your dreams. He wasn't sure that was possible. And I assured him it was, but that's the way that people think when they're in those positions. So it's important to start racking up those wins and that momentum builds. And with the debt snowball, I'll try to make this simple. Once you pay off your smallest balance, not your minimum payment, but your smallest balance, you then add the minimum payment of that debt to your next lowest balance.
Right.
So now you can see the snowball, and just imagine, because most people have some smaller balances that are just kind of hanging around. Yeah. They've been there forever, and people just kind of think that's just the way their life is, that they just have these balances. But no, you knock those suckers out, and then you add those minimum payments to the next debt. And then before you know it, when you start cranking through those, it doesn't take long, 2, 3, 4. I mean, we had our biggest debt, if you can imagine, and it started off as at 60 something thousand, but by the time it was the last debt that we had, and it was $30,000. So our last debt that we had after paying everything else off with the debt snowball was $30,000. And that might sound completely overwhelming. And guess what? It really wasn't for us, because we saw the power of this snowball. And by the time we got to that, we were throwing so much money at that debt, that we actually paid it off pretty quickly. It was less. It was well inside of a year, and then obviously that freed up a ton of cash. But it was all the power of that momentum that we said, this is happening. We saw it. We knew it. It was just a matter of time. And then finally we paid it off, and we were able to celebrate. And we went to a nice dinner and celebrated, and it was an awesome feeling. But that was a step. And then then there's more steps. We looked at retirement and college planning for our girls and things like that. And that was the kind of the plan in the nutshell.
Yeah. Did you ever see the movie What About Bob?
Yeah. Are you kidding me, dude?
Yeah.
He's not gone. He's never gone.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so good. And, the classic line is that baby steps, right?
Uh-huh.
He's like, just take one small step, in the direction, and then you can do it. And it's so similar to fitness. I have a story of, a gentleman I worked with for a long time who came in and never really spent much time in the gym, very severely overweight. And, we just started with like, hey, let's just meet for 10 minutes every week.
Yep.
Versus like, okay, we're going to start off with 3 days a week. You're going to, squat, hinge, press, pull, right? Like that. It's too much. But human behavior, and behind all these things, we always forget, like we can have the most beautiful programs either for fitness or for finance, beautiful designs, right? Of like, hey, here's the architecture of how we're going to get there. But it's human nature that we have to understand, and how people work. And what you said, the mindset around money, is something that I would like to dive into, because I don't fully understand, like people say, well, what's your relationship with money? Right. I'm like, well, I never really thought about it. Do you dive into that and how people work, how the relationships with money are?
Yeah, I do. It's so important. I was just talking to one of my clients, I guess you would say. She's going through the program, and she's doing really well. And we were talking, and she was saying how when she grew up, it was like, I don't know if her parents were super successful, but however things played out, she was taught, and a lot of this stuff is verbal and a lot of it is nonverbal. It's like, hey, what did your parents sort of recognize? Did they think? Did they say, or did they act like it was wrong to have money? Like if people that have money are jerks, or did they act like it was impossible to get ahead financially? Like did they just kind of, that's something that rich people can do. Like for us, like we have to like just this is just the way it is for us, and it sucks. But that's just, again, with words or without, those things matter, and that creates our mindset as we get older. It's a big part of how we turn out. We all have these mindsets from our genogram or from our family of origin. And with her, it was like she has some siblings that are like uber successful, right? And so for whatever reason, that created a mindset in her that she wasn't good enough. So now what she's doing, and before it wasn't even conscious, she was equating her value or her worth as a person with the money she had. And that's very dangerous, because you'll never be happy with that mindset, because when is it enough? It's never enough. I'm sure we can relate to that. It's like you reach that line that you were trying to cross, and then the line moves. It's like, wait a second, I was there, but then it moves again. Yeah. I remember thinking that if I made $50,000 a year as a personal trainer, man, I'm going to be like happy. Yeah. And then the line moved. Then it was more, and then it was more, and then it was. But we have to understand that's never going to do it. Yeah. We are never going to satisfy an internal insecurity with an external result. Yeah. And so with her, it was really just honing in on her mindset, having her process that, finding out where it came from, and then to start to reframe that. And that's a huge part of this. I think that's one of the biggest parts. I don't think it's the, kind of like you were saying, it's not the architecture. I think it really is, it's what's underneath that matters most. We have to know that whole thing, like, we have to believe it to achieve it. And it's true. We'll never outperform our own self-image. Like, I remember thinking things like, again, it wasn't even something I verbalized, but I remember just thinking as a student, like I would see the smart kids and I would just think like, oh, that's really cool. Like the athletes, they were athletes and they were also good. They were also very academic. And I was like, wow, that's awesome. They could do both. And like, I don't know, it was from my family of origin. I never thought of myself as why can't I do both? Like, there's no difference between that person and I am, but I am automatically assuming that they could do it, but I can't. So for that reason, I fell behind and I goofed off and I chased girls and I got to college and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I don't know what I need to know to succeed. So I had to make a decision at that point and say, I am going to do whatever it takes. So I had to take, this is something else you won't see on Instagram. I had to take a remedial math class because I goofed off my last years of high school. And I'm going to this class and finally I'm getting ahead and I'm staying at school from morning until late at night at extra help. And I want to be a physical therapist. So I had to catch up on my sciences and my math. Finally, I'm taking a pre-calculus class that I needed for PT requirements. And I go to my professor's office for special help, office hours, Dr. Skurnick. And and we're sitting there and we're working through a problem and I'm asking him questions. And he looks up at me and he says, Billy, this is 20 years ago, mind you. I do this every Tuesday and Thursday for 2 hours. And you are the only person that comes. He said, you seem like the kind of guy that can do anything you put your mind to. And right then and there, for the first time in my entire life, I started to believe that I could do something with myself on the academic side. Right then and there, it's all it took. From that point forward, I became the kid, the student, not right then and there, but after some time, people were coming up to me. I never forget. It was such a surreal moment. Like a girl came up to me. It was like an advanced chemistry question. She was asking me, and I was explaining it to her. And then after, I was like, "Wow! If this girl only knew what I was like, a year ago." But the bottom line, I know I went off on a bit of a tangent there.
That's good.
The bottom line is that you can change. You can change. You can change. You are responsible for changing. Nobody else is going to do it. You have to decide and you can do it. It just takes that decision. And then it's the power of that belief. I thankfully Dr. Skurnick, and I actually wrote him a note this past year thanking him. And it was awesome. Fantastic. He wrote back, that was life-changing.
Yeah. That's great, man. And it's interesting how just the words of someone else can make you aware of the actions that you're actually doing and then the potential thereof, right? Mm-hmm. If you just reapply the same effort and energy. And as you're speaking, I just started thinking about my own relationship with money. And I'm so lucky that I have a wife who keeps me so damn disciplined on everything.
You are very lucky, my friend.
Yeah, I am.
So am I.
Yeah. And it's, you talk about that kind of, that line moving of like, if you make more money, you'll just adjust and you'll just spend more, or that let but I found it works both ways. What's interesting is that, since I sold the gym, we walked away with some money, which was about 14 months ago. But as I knew it would take time for me to build my online presence and do the things that we want to do to sustain a lifestyle of mobility and freedom that we enjoy right now. And, so we had to lay back and kind of, lean up and work on her salary for a while, because we knew that's the sure thing. Of course, something could change with their job situation. So we kind of lowered, I don't want to say lowered our standard of living, but just lowered our expense of living. Mm-hmm. And you know what? We're just as happy, if not happier. And we've got rid of all the shit, right? Got rid of all the crap in our lives, at least most of it. I still have a lot of stuff. But life is simplified, and I found that you can move both ways. And I'm sure as things are picking up for me, we'll probably just adjust the same thing. But what's nice about it is you kind of figure out what really makes you happy and what you need, and you don't need much. Yeah, we like to go out to dinner every once in a while. We like pizza, wherever we travel to with our destinations, because we move every 3 months, and, we want to go out and try the local fare, right? So we save money for that. And it's just a simpler budgetary thing. And it does provide, we have a ton of freedom, dude. Our life is super free because we have some discipline.
Yeah.
And that's it. And
that's
your
awesome.
point is very well hit. So let's talk about your system. Give us insight. So how does this work? Let's say, let's come up with an avatar, right? Like, who's your most common, type of person that you work with? Maybe give us some examples of how this whole thing unfolds.
Yeah, sure. I think the ideal person to go through the program, and I think it would help almost, anybody wherever they are in the spectrum. I've worked with people that have no debt and that they are looking just to improve. They even have retirement and they're doing a lot of good things, but they maybe don't have a solid plan. They've just been kind of lucky. Maybe they have a spouse that's super helpful, whatever the case is. And I think it would work really well for them. But I think the ideal person is somebody who has a vision, who wants more, and they're at this point they're struggling. They are being they can't, they're barely surviving. They're doing things and they're trudging along and they're feeling kind of disappointed in this is not how they wanted things to go. And they know that they have a vision and they want more. So they want, for example, I talk a lot about margin. And to me, what that means is basically what you were saying is you have the freedom and the options to do more. So it's somebody who says, I don't want to just be a slave to my business, charging away, working 60 hours a week so that I could barely make ends meet. I feel that I deserve to work as hard as I do to have a better life, to have more freedom, to have that margin, to be able to do the things that I want to do. So that's sort of like the mindset of the ideal person. And it could be somebody who has their own club. They maybe recently opened, and I think these are really valuable things to learn early on. I was thankful that I started with a lot of these principles early on in my current training business. I learned a lot of these lessons beforehand, and but also for somebody who's been in it for years, who really just needs to start over in a sense financially. I think anybody along that line would be a great fit for the program. And one of the things that I think makes it as valuable as it is the accountability, because we know, like with our clients, like you could probably, no one's going to love me saying this, especially the trainer geeks that are watching. I mean, most people would probably have to agree that if the average person that wanted to experience some fat loss and feel better, if they had a little bit of common sense and they followed a workout they found online or in a magazine, and even the nutrition principles they found online or in a magazine, they would probably do okay as long as they followed through and they did the actual steps. Same thing with this. It's no different. The average person, if they were to make a plan, follow the plan, they would get ahead. But it's like, why does anybody need a coach? One thing we know is that people do better with coaches. They do better with accountability. And that's one thing when you asked me about what I did, I missed that step, is I had a lot of accountability built in several different ways. I had a coach, I went through a program, I had my wife, I had friends, we had all this accountability built in. And it's the same thing here. So there's tons of accountability. So we make it as fail-proof as possible. And I just can say that the people that are going through it, and this is not meant to be a sales pitch, but the testimonies are amazing. People who were hopeless are now hopeful, and they're already in short period of time, already have a plan, already paying down debt, and on their way to financial freedom.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. It's at least with my experience and the experience I've had with business owners in the fitness industry is, everyone looks at top line, right? Yeah. Like, how much revenue you have, right? And, sometimes it's really impressive number, but then you get down to it, start seeing the layers underneath, and it's a hot mess. And that's why we were talking about like profit first, and some of their things. And I implemented that and saved me probably immediately That one trick of like, okay, just cancel all of your credit cards and get a new credit card number.
Yeah.
And that's like, for people listening, this is a great thing because it saved me probably somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000 a month of just pure profit, which was in my pocket. Right. And it was just, what I call those warts on your business of things that are just always there, reoccurring billing. You're not too sure, but you have so many transactions going on in your business, you don't see them. So it's interesting. And what happens is if you cancel and something comes up, maybe you lose service for something on a day or two. You're like, okay, I really needed that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like, screw it, don't worry about it. You won't need it anymore. And there's so many little things, but it's everyone's chasing the revenue. Everyone's chasing the new clients. Everyone's chasing everything. But what if you just have what you have now, and that's going to only be it? What do you do, right? Yeah. Well, you follow a system like yours, right? You optimize it, and you find out you have a whole lot more than you thought, most likely.
Yes. Yeah. That actually triggers a couple of thoughts. One is when I started making progress, I was making less income than when I got into the mess I was in. So collectively, we were doing over 6 figures before when we got into the mess that we got in. And then, as a startup business, I was not making that much, and we made more progress because of the reason you're saying. And as far as profit first, I could not agree more. Top line, I'm sure you've heard this, top line feeds the ego, bottom line feeds the family.
Yeah. I love it. That's great. And it's just, it goes like, I can give so many examples, especially from personal friends, myself and my wife included, when everything was really humming, and we lived in Santa Barbara, California, mortgage was $4,000 a month on a, 1,100 square foot home. Like, you just start thinking how these things add up. Like, you look at our top line, people are like, oh, you guys are doing great. Like, are we? Because it doesn't feel like it. And I have a friend who's, very successful, and both him and his wife work for Salesforce in San Francisco. And, you look at their total income, you're like, whoo, you guys are doing amazing. And they're like, really? Because we don't feel like it. And I think that's, it's that really, because we don't feel like it kind of person that can use a lot of help. It's not just the people who are struggling to make ends meet.
Yeah, great point. Absolutely. So there's one of my favorite finance authors is a guy named Thomas Stanley. And he's essentially has dedicated his whole working life to studying the habits of financially successful people. And he looks at net worth, and a lot of it has to do with income versus assets, essentially. And a lot of times it's very disproportional. So like you're saying, the people that are making a ton of money, they're just spending according to what they're making. And unless you're like uber successful, like I'm talking about like celebrity level, like if you're Jay-Z, you can drive around in a Maserati and still have extreme wealth. But for the average person, and I mean anywhere in that, even what the average person would consider a high level of income, it's you can't have it all. You can't have the big house, the exotic vacations, the designer clothes, the top shelf spirits, Rolex, and have security or financial freedom. It's kind of like one or the other. So the one of his popular books is The Millionaire Next Door, and it goes back to what you said before, in that it's being content. And so my wife and I, just like you and your wife, we learned that, hey, we were just as happy packing up lunch and going on a picnic than we were going to a fancy restaurant that we really couldn't afford. So it's doing those kinds of things and being happy with the nice, reliable, slightly used car versus the Maserati or whatever it is. Again, there's nothing wrong with those things. If you have the money and you want those things, but it's really determining the difference between the need and the want. Because a lot of people are very confused over those things. Yeah. I need a brand new Mercedes. You don't need that. You want that, and that's okay. But don't say that you need it. And then, So the other title of his book that I love is "Stop Acting Rich." That's a great one, and it's exactly as it sounds. It's hey, let's slow down, slow your roll, and just. If it's simple as if you don't have the money for it, then don't buy it. That would help a lot of people if they just follow that simple, common sense advice.
Yeah, it's true, and it's so much of it is built in for our hard wiring for status. Right? We just really want, I mean, if people listen, I'm sure a lot of people on here listen to Russell Brunson from ClickFunnels and his marketing materials and his, thoughts on how you have to, you essentially speak to people's need for status. And one of my favorite things, I'm sure you've heard of FOMO, right? Fear of missing out.
Yep.
The new one that I've been using quite often is FOKU, fear of keeping up, right?
Yeah.
And how this is just systematically kind of built into our societies, and it's crazy. And, I guess first step one is always awareness, right? Yeah. Once you can, I think you do most likely an amazing job of helping people become aware of like, hey, this is what's going on, right? If you're realizing you're chasing whatever the Johnsons are doing down the block because they appear to be, super happy and they have the Mercedes and they have all these things, you don't, like, most of the time, these people are a hot mess, when it comes down to it, and, like some of the most successful people I know in my upbringing, I didn't know that their family was so financially successful until I hit my 30s because they were so humble, right? It's just, I think of this guy, Tony Nicoletti, and his family, and they just, little I know, this family is just sitting on, I won't say anything, but just a lot of money, but they live so humbly every day. Yeah. And meanwhile, the one down the block, with the nice Mercedes now they're not doing so great. Right? Yeah. So yeah, it's so much of it is mindset and society's influence on.
Yeah. And the one thing that's awesome. The one thing I want to add is that I would really not want anybody to make the mistake and think that, like, I'm preaching, like, you have to, like, sacrifice a happy life, because that's not what either one of us is saying. What Thomas Stanley studies and what I've experienced is that people that are living within their means and they're enjoying the simple things, they're enjoying the relationships in their lives and the experiences, they are genuinely happier. It's not like we're just saying that so that we're tricking you into saving more money. It's like, no, but you are genuinely a happier person when you're more content with the simple things. And there's nothing wrong with nice things, but it will not create happiness. Never, ever, ever.
No. It can give you momentary glimpses. It can give you injections of happiness.
Yeah.
Right? For sure. And there's certain things that I want that are expensive. If you saw how much I spend on ski gear, Billy, you'd be like, holy cow, this guy's nuts. But to me, it makes me really happy because I use it all the time, right? At least 4 or 5 months out of the year. Right now it's just sitting there. But there's, like, you got to figure out really, like, if you are going to, spend the money on the things that, I would just double check and make sure that it's truly stuff that makes you happy. How often do you use it? That's my thing. Is like, it's something I use every day.
Yeah, and then think about what you're saying too. It's something that you're doing that you're probably doing as a family, right? You're or doing it with people that you like. You're doing something that's healthy for you. It's like you're saying, it's creating happiness. So that to me is a little bit different than some other things. And again, it's not to judge anybody, but yeah, it's like you're saying, it's discovering what it is that you are really passionate about. And that, I have plenty of things that I spend on that maybe a lot of people wouldn't, but that's me. That is something you have to figure out.
Yeah. Well, it's your values.
Yes.
Right? And that's the thing is everyone, needs, I think if one of the most influential things I've been taught by a mentor was James Fitzgerald, and he really got me honing in on values, and not just my own values, which was, if you really look at your values, what is it? It's like, if you look at your bank account or your calendar, you can tell exactly what someone values. That's really having a keen understanding of yourself, but then starting to see how other people's values and how those reflect, especially in motivating somebody, to be fitter or financially more healthy, and really, like that. I know it sounds like an obscure thing, but you can go and check out Dr. Demartini, some of his work he's done on value systems. You can even take a test he has online. It's really eye-opening. And, once you start honing and understanding what you truly value, then you can spend your money there and you'll be perfectly happy. But what happens is we just spend money on what we think we should value.
Yes, that's huge.
And then that's when we get into unhappiness and all that. And yeah,
you're right. You're right about that, because I did the opposite. I did what everybody does. I got married, so I needed 2 nice, reliable cars. I needed the house and all the things in it. We needed to go to Disney because we were young, fat. So it's like that. That's what I'm supposed to do. That's what everybody does. but it didn't make me happy. It just created a mess out of my life because I didn't have my stuff in order.
Yeah.
So absolutely right.
Yeah. So Billy, let's I think we went pretty philosophical there.
I know.
Which is good. It's important.
If you're still with us, then
yeah. No, it's important. It really is, because I think, people want those top, just give me that one thing, Billy, that'll make me financially more free. They're like, it's a process, just like anything else. So, with the program you're doing now, where do people get on board? They want to find out more about it. Where do you send them?
Okay. So I'm going to suggest you visit this website. It's yourfitnessmoneycoach.com.
Awesome.
Yourfitnessmoneycoach.com. And check it out there, and you'll be able to find whatever info you need. And then I'm very accessible, so just reach out to me. I'm on Facebook, and I guess that's pretty clear. And then give me my number, but it might be a little weird.
Awesome. Well, Billy, it's I appreciate coming on, being so authentic and telling your story. Honestly, it's really cool that you feel comfortable doing that, because obviously, that situation, and it's just another example of like when people go through the hardest times, they're actually being set on a road for purpose, right? And and now you're turning that around. You're helping a lot of people, and it's such a, for me and all of our audience, I appreciate what you're doing for the fitness industry, and keep it up, man.
Awesome, Eric. Right back at you, brother.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, Billy Hofacker. Hey, fitness fans, don't leave yet. It's your host, Eric Malzone, and I have a quick favor to ask. Actually, 3 favors. So, number 1, if you're a fan of our show, I ask you to do something that takes under 3 minutes. Go to iTunes, please, and subscribe to our show. Please, please, please. It means so much to us. It's so important. And then give us a favorable review. We would really, really appreciate it. And I can't tell you how much it means and helps us out. So I know it takes 2 minutes of your day, and it means a lot to us. So please do that. Number 2, go to our YouTube channel, or Fitness Marketing Alliance, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel there. Number 3, if you like this episode or any of the episodes that we've released, share it on social. That's huge. That's a big deal for us. And we put a lot of work into these episodes, trying to give you great actionable content for the fitness industry. So that would mean a lot. And that's it. So we have some big plans coming up for this show. I'll be talking about that in the next couple episodes, but thank you so much for listening. It means so much. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me. I'd love to hear from everybody. Eric, ERIC, at fitnessmarketingalliance.com.